Hi. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook, and today I am just so excited. I have not felt this giddy to film a video in so long. I am doing my March reading wrap up. I do not know what came over me, but I read 10 books in the month of March. I am just having so much fun right now. I feel like I have the reading bug back, just like in full swing. You know how it is if you're a reader. I've loved reading my whole life, but it comes in ebbs and flows. It has highs and lows, and I am just on such a high right now. I feel like I'm just really kind of exploring new genres. I'm kind of in my weird lit fic era, which has been really fun. Also just reading a ton of thrillers. I've been doing a lot of rereading this year, which you're going to hear more about like next month and over the next month. I definitely plan to do some videos on that, but I am just like truly loving reading again. And the month of March was just like the best reading month that I have had in actual years. So excited to talk to you about it. Kind of got a large range of books to talk about. I have my list over here I'm looking at. Like this was a weird, but I cannot believe that all of this kind of happened in the same month. We have, again, some lit fic, some thrillers, a little bit of romance, just really, some horror as well, just like really all over the place. So we got a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. So first up, I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. This book has been on my list for so long. Again, I'm in my weird girl lit fic era, and this book is always like the first one on the list of recommendations that I see when we talk about this specific genre. This story basically follows this girl that is in her mid-20s. She, for all intents and purposes, should be living a very happy life. She went to a great college, has a good job, she's attractive, she's, been kind of in a relationship recently, she's got a good friend or two in her life, but she's just been in this weird depressive state. And on top of that, recently, both of her parents have passed away pretty close together. So because of that, she has come into a really large sum of money, a big inheritance, and so she just makes the decision that she is going to take this money, quit her job, and just take a year off of life. She's just going to go and find a very questionable therapist that's willing to prescribe her a whole lot of sleeping medication, and she is just going to, for a year, be completely selfish and try to sleep as much as humanly possible and just see what happens when she comes out of it. It's a weird concept. It's like, where is this going to go? And half the time when you're reading the book, you don't really know. And that is kind of what these types of books are. There's a lot of no plot involved, but I thoroughly enjoyed the experience of reading this. It was kind of refreshing to read a book with a narrator that kind of just isn't a great person and is also kind of okay with that fact, and also has no desire to change and kind of doesn't really change throughout the book. And it sounds like, okay, what's going on then? But trust me, it was a good time. I really liked it. It kind of deals with, again, just like the weirdness of what is life, what is the point of all this, especially like the grind. The book takes place in the early 2000s, or 2000, the year 2000 in New York City, and it's just kind of like the whole rat race of life, like what are we doing? It also explores themes of like friendship and I don't want to give anything away, but I really, really enjoyed it. I'm definitely wanting to read more by this author. It had a twist at the end that really, I thought I was paying attention, and this twist came up and I was like, oh my God, did not expect that. And it just made it that much better. And yeah, I just really, really liked this one. Up next, I read Tell Me Lies by Carola Lovering. If this sounds familiar, it is because there's a very popular TV show that is based off of this book. I was not caught up on it. I had heard of it, but was not watching it in real time. And the series finale actually just came out in the last month or two. And I sat there and binged the entire show in less than a week. I simply could not stop watching it. And it was so good. I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible in the way that like it was so stressful and everybody on the show is kind of terrible, but you just can't stop thinking about it. It like infected my brain, and watching the show, there's just so many different characters and storylines and things overlapping that my author brain, I'm like, I have to see how this story was told in book format. And so whenever the show finished, or I finished it and I couldn't stop thinking about it, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go and give this book a try. And I'm really glad that I did. If you don't know anything about this, Tell Me Lies basically follows a relationship between these two characters, a very toxic relationship that takes place over the course of a few years. The characters are Stephen and Lucy. Stephen is a textbook narcissist sociopath with a touch of bipolar. And Lucy is a very easily manipulated, just a girl that you just want to give a hug, but also just like shake the sense into her a few different times. She is such a hopeless romantic. She's very good at giving people the benefit of the doubt when they don't deserve it. And the two of them together just create the biggest mess you've ever seen. The two of them meet in college whenever Lucy is a freshman, Stephen is a senior, and you see it kind of follow the relationship that they have that year and then leading into the future. And now present day, it's been a couple of years. The two of them haven't spoken in a long time, and they are reuniting because their mutual friends are getting married. Their friends from college are getting married. So that is the format that the book follows. It's funny, the book is very different from the show. I could honestly make an entire video talking about that. But if anything, I really did enjoy the book. Again, enjoy is a loose term because it did make me feel like I was going actually insane. Stephen DeMarco is a terrifying person. Like the level of gaslighting, just you truly start to wonder like what is actually real here? What did he say? What did he mean? Like, am I making things up? Like, it's just, his character is insane and it's so well done in the book. But the book, if anything, made me appreciate the show even more because it was just such a good adaptation. Like the parts of it that mattered were still in the show, but then it was just so expanded. Like the people in the friend group that you really just kind of heard about, they got all their own storylines. It just added, it built. It was so good. I definitely, like, the book was good, but the show was even better. So if you're like, do I want to read one or the other and you have to choose one, I say watch the show, but also the book was still a very good time. It was like, it was kind of a thriller in a sense, but also it's got some toxic romance in it. It was all over the place, and I enjoyed every second of it. Up next, I read This Story Might Save Your Life by Tiffany Crum. This was a new release. I actually decided to listen to it on audio because Julia Whalen narrated it, and if there's one thing you need to know about me, if Julia Whalen is narrating it, I'm going to be listening to it because she is just the best. I had seen some really rave reviews about this one, and unfortunately it just kind of didn't meet the mark for me. It basically follows this guy and this girl that are best friends, and they have a podcast together called This Story Might Save Your Life, where people write in with their crazy survival stories. And the podcast has this huge following. It's in like the top 10, massive fan base. And basically the woman, they are supposed to meet to record an episode, and she just doesn't show up, and she has pretty much up and vanished. The guy goes to her house and things just look very suspicious. It seems like something might have gone wrong. And so part of the story is told from his point of view of trying to figure out like where she is and what's happened to her. And then the other half is being told through her point of view because the two of them are writing this book together, this like memoir of how they met and how, you know, their podcast came to be. And so it's her chapters of that book that she started to write. So you're flashing back to the past, seeing how the two of them first met, and you get some like romance elements in there because it's kind of like, you know, it's a friends to lovers, but kind of never becomes lovers because they never got the timing right, miscommunication, all those types of things. And so you're flashing between the two stories until they kind of eventually come together and you realize what has happened here. I was just kind of let down by it because it wasn't a thriller. To me, it was very much advertised like a thriller, but it was not very suspenseful. Like it was very slow. It was very slow and very boring, and there was not a whole lot of suspense there. There weren't a lot of psychological elements. Honestly, if anything, it was more of like a mystery, but then again, it was trying to be a romance, but I didn't get enough of the romance. I didn't get enough of the thriller type of elements, and it just didn't end up being what I thought it was going to be, and I was just kind of let down by it. So, liked the concept, the execute, especially like I love anything that's like a dual POV when you have the present day and then you have like a different format that's coming in and it's the guy and the girl. Like I was all for it when it started, but it just like kind of fell flat for me in the end. So that thriller may have been a little bit of a disappointment, but luckily we turned it around immediately because I finally picked up a book that I've been putting off for so long, and I don't really have an explanation as to why. You guys have recommended me this book a million times and I just refuse to pick it up. I don't know. I don't have an explanation, and I could kick myself because I loved it so much and I already know it's going to be one of my favorite books of the year. The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I made an entire dedicated review video to this, so you can go and watch that, and I won't try to ramble about it too long here, but pretty much high level synopsis. This story is about this woman named Alicia. She is a famous painter and she's married to a famous photographer. And one day, kind of seemingly out of the blue, she pew-pews her husband 5 times in the face, kills him, obviously, and never speaks again. So now this story is being told from the point of view of this therapist that has kind of become obsessed with her case, just like doesn't know what went wrong. And obviously now the fact that she still years later has not spoken, like all these people have tried to get through to her, it just hasn't happened. She was never really able to be tried for her crimes because she didn't speak, and she is now being held in a mental institution, and he just makes it his mission that he wants to go and work there and try to get through to her. So that's exactly what he does. So we are getting his point of view of meeting Alicia, kind of trying to like have therapy sessions with her, trying to do anything he can to get her to speak, also trying to investigate this mystery kind of off on his own. And then at the same time, we are getting diary entries from Alicia that take place kind of early on before any of this even started. And that's actually how the book starts. It starts out with a chapter that is Alicia's diary entry. So reading that and then immediately jumping to the therapist's point of view or the psychiatrist's point of view, learning what eventually comes of Alicia and this relationship that she has with her husband that seems like super happy and perfectly fine in the first chapter. It was a wild ride. I loved this. Honestly, I don't know if I would quite call this a thriller either. Like it was, but in a sense for me, it was almost like literary fiction in a way. It was like a thrilling literary fiction mystery. I don't know. It was kind of a genre all its own, and I really, really liked it. I loved being inside the therapist's head. I think his name was, Theo. Oh my God, Theo. How could I forget? I loved being inside his head. He was a very interesting character. Just like, I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to talk about it further, but just trust me. If you haven't read this one yet, go do it. Up next, I read another new release that I am just so happy. I pre-ordered this book. When I first read the description, I was like, this is so up my alley. It's not even funny. I pray that it lives up to the standards that I have already set for it in my head, and it absolutely did. Like, I just know this is going to be one of my favorites of the year. It is Lucian by J.R. Thornton. I have talked about it ad nauseum on this channel, but The Secret History by Donna Tartt, you can see it back there, my favorite book of all time, and one of my favorite movies of all time is Saltburn. I have my little Saltburn pop figures up there. I love that book. I love that movie, and reading the description of this, it just felt like a crossover of the two. And also, if you're a Donna Tartt fan, her book, The Goldfinch, like it almost felt like The Secret History and The Goldfinch had a baby and just like had the flavor of Saltburn thrown into it, and I was just so sat for it. I got this in the mail, immediately sat down, proceeded to read the entire thing in one day because I could not put it down. So good. It follows this character named Christopher. He is a painter, and he's been accepted into Harvard, and he's starting out there, and Christopher is very much your kind of like average boy. Like he's very quiet, very introverted. He's an artist. He's never really found his place in the world. He's never been super popular in school. He just kind of struggles socially, and he gets paired with this boy named Lucian as his roommate at Harvard. And Lucian is just like this larger than life, magnetic sort of character. He is very wealthy. Everybody wants to be his friend. He walks into the room and he owns it. And he quickly casts his spell on Christopher, and Christopher kind of gets swept up into Lucian's crazy life, and he enjoys it because Lucian makes him feel seen and makes him feel like, oh, he has friends for the first time. And it's just, he's very much kind of being drawn into this whole crazy world of Lucian's. And Lucian ends up getting this crazy idea because he sees that Christopher is such a good painter that they should go in together on a scheme where Christopher basically paints counterfeit paintings of famous artists, and they sell them for very large sums of money and split the profit. And this is obviously a crazy idea that could result in jail time and whatnot. And Christopher is very apprehensive, but it's very, very hard to say no to Lucian. And as you can expect, this entire thing very much spirals out of control very fast. I just love any book that is like a dark academia setting that deals with the themes of like obsession, like friendship, and being enamored with someone so much that it leads to like a level of unhealthy obsession and just anything also tied to like greatness and creativity. This just had like all the things that I love thrown into a blender. It was just such a good time. I cannot recommend it enough. Up next, I read another new release. I didn't really realize until I was looking at this list now that I read a lot of new books this month, but the marketing got me. All the people reading it on TikTok, I was just very much influenced. And this was another one that I was influenced to read that it felt a little bit flat for me. It is called Loved One by Aisha Muharrar. This cover was just stunning. Whenever I first heard about it, I just thought the concept was so interesting. Very much draws you in just like hearing what it's about. Basically, it is about this woman that has had this kind of situationship with this guy for a long time. They dated each other in high school and had kind of a whirlwind relationship, but then life just sent them separate ways as they were going off to college, and they've come back together a few times over the years, but the timing has just never quite been right. Since they've dated, he went on to become a very famous musician, and again, they never really came back together fully again, but recently they did hook up. And after their hookup, he ghosts her and she doesn't hear anything from him. And it turns out that he actually has died in a tragic accident, complete and total freak accident. And now the story is her dealing with the aftermath of that, all the grief that comes with it, kind of just mourning their relationship that they never really got to have. And just, he dies very young, very suddenly. Like that in itself is very much its own thing. But also within this story, she has to travel to London because his most recent girlfriend lives there and some of his things are with her and his mother wants them back. So she goes and ends up spending time with his most recent ex-girlfriend. It's kind of a complicated story. There's a lot of layers to it. You're getting this present day timeline, but then you're also kind of jumping back to the past and seeing the two of them and like their various times that they kind of got together over the years. And again, the concept of this just sounds so like earth-shattering and just like heartbreaking. And of course it is. But for me, like a story like this, I really expected to go back to the past and see them first meet. And I expected a romance that just like gave me the butterflies and the rainbows. I just thought that like I was gonna fall so in love with this guy and that they were gonna have like an epic romance, and it was just gonna make it so much harder going back and seeing all this, like knowing that he's dead. But for me, it never hit for me. And I kind of hated the guy in it. I thought he was kind of a loser. And I don't know, I didn't like feel this like epic amazing love between the two of them, so I didn't like mourn him as much as I feel like I should have. And then the entire story, it just, for me, it was very kind of slow, and I didn't feel like, I mean, it had a kind of a big plot twist in it that does happen, and there were some moments in it that I did enjoy, but for me, it just like never really captured my attention. I kept waiting for it to like really get going, and it kind of never did. And yeah, I liked the concept, but I just feel like the execution and how it all kind of finished, I just wasn't, I don't know. It just didn't hit for me. I don't think it was for me, but I've seen so many people raving about this, so maybe give it a try for yourself. Up next, totally switching gears from the sad, depressing, grief-filled literary fiction. I was like, all right, I'm ready for something creepy. I'm ready for a thriller. I'm ready for some horror. And I read Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. This one had been on my list for a while. I had just heard that it was like so spooky, so scary, but I didn't really know much about it besides that. And yeah, I actually listened to this on audio. I switched back and forth between audio and reading it, and oh my god, the audio made it so much creepier. The entire story is told from the point of view of this little girl, and you pretty much just jump into it learning that there is this entity in her house that calls itself Other Mommy, and it's been around for years, and it has been slowly getting closer and closer to this young girl, and she frequently asks her, can I go inside your heart? So scary. It is very much like a creepy, thrilling, like body horror, gross, spooky, ooky book. I didn't actually realize until I was like halfway through the book and I looked up this author that he's the author of Bird Box, which was like a huge success, obviously, a huge movie. this is also being turned into a movie as well. Jessica Chastain is starring in it, so I'm very much looking forward to that, but it's going to be so scary. This really, I mean, it's totally a story that's like left up to a lot of interpretation, but it does deal with the idea of children and the effects that it has on them whenever they're in a household environment that is not the healthiest, with narcissistic parents and unhealthy relationships. And it deals a lot with the themes of like innocence and, you know, like childhood innocence, and really plays into all of that. There were some moments in this, especially the audio. At one point I was listening to this audio at approximately 7:45 in the morning, on like driving to work. I was on my commute, sitting in traffic, and the audio had me spooked. I had like goosebumps. I was freaked out. It was just, yeah, lots of twists and turns in this one. I was just like on the edge of my seat trying to figure out what was going to happen. If you want like a really creepy, fun horror book, this is definitely a good one to check out, but I warned you. I feel like I'm giving y'all whiplash in this video, but clearly I must have given myself whiplash this last month, because the next book that I read, a complete 360 from the creepy child horror novel, I read I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. I have seen this book everywhere, all over TikTok. Like, people have been saying that this is like the greatest book of all time. Every woman needs to read this. This is just a life-changing experience. And I actually didn't realize until I picked it up that it was written in 1995. I just figured that it was a new release just because I've seen so many people talking about it recently, and I guess it's just had a resurgence somehow. But this was a very, very interesting experience. I don't know that I've ever read a book quite like this one. It basically follows the story of 40, or I guess 39 women and one young girl. They are trapped in this cage that is guarded by guards, very deep below the Earth's surface, and they don't really know where they are or how they got there. They have very vague recollections of what their life was before being in this cage, but except for the girl has no memories other than being in the cage, and they have no real sense of time. They don't even know like if they're on Earth anymore. Like, they don't know anything. They just know that they live day by day in this cage, completely exposed. They just, you know, eat, sleep, live, don't really know what the purpose is, don't know why they're there, don't know anything. But then one day something happens. Basically, the doors to the cage open and they are able to escape. And so the whole story is told from the point of view of this young girl, and she kind of has to lead the charge to help them escape. And then you just kind of see what happens following that. And this was so interesting because I thought, you know, it's called I Who Have Never Known Men. And so going into it, I thought that it was going to be a story kind of dealing with the idea of what society would be like, or what the woman girlhood experience would be like if there were no men, you know, in the world. But it's funny because it's told from the point of view of this girl that has never known men. So she doesn't know any different. Like, men are kind of not even really discussed that much in the book because she doesn't know. You do get to see what life is like when it's just a society of only women and how they sort of function, but there's so much more to it than that. It's not just a feminist story about men versus women, whatever. Like, this girl is truly experiencing the entire world for the first time with no context of what normal life would be. And it's kind of one of those books that makes you kind of stop and appreciate the little things, like the birds singing outside and like the sun on your skin, and just all those little things, like relationships and like love, and just all the things we get to experience that we take for granted. It kind of makes you step back and think about that, and just think about how weird life is, and again, what the purpose of it all is. And I will say, I liked this. I mean, it was a good experience. Like, I'm glad that I read it, but I like a book that's left open to interpretation. I like when something doesn't make a whole lot of sense and it kind of ends on a note where you are able to just kind of sit with it and process it. I read it probably 2 weeks ago now, and I feel like I'm still processing it. But for me, the book was like so open-ended that in the end I was like not entirely sure I understood what the point was. Like, I even kind of wondered, does the author know the answer to the questions that, like, there's just so many questions that are posed in this book that you think like, okay, we're going to figure some things out, and you kind of never figure anything out. And so I just kind of left me thinking, like, does she know what's happening? Or is this just meant to be a whole, like, I don't know, thought piece? I don't know. I enjoyed it. I would recommend it if you want something that's really like thought-provoking and introspective and, you know, different, like I said, but I don't know. I feel like I'm still processing this one. Up next, I read Heart the Lover by Lily King. I feel like my heart is still just like aching in my chest thinking about this book. It nearly killed me. This is another book I've seen everybody talking about. It's just been everywhere, and I read a different book by Lily King a few months back that I talked about on this channel called Writers and Lovers, and I loved that book. I feel like Lily King is the closest I've been able to get to Sally Rooney. Just, they really remind me of each other, the way that they tell stories. They just tell very like character-driven literary fiction, you know, stories that you kind of are just dropped into a character's life, you experience a period of time with them, and then you're sort of just plucked out of it and don't totally know where it's gonna go, and it's just very raw, relatable, real. I loved Writers and Lovers, so I knew I wanted to read more books by her. And this one, going into it, I did not realize it is a standalone, but it serves as both a prequel and a sequel for Writers and Lovers. The story basically starts out following this girl named Jordan, and she kind of has this love triangle situationship in college with these two different boys. And so you're kind of following that. She meets this guy, they have a relationship, and then she ends up kind of forming a relationship with his friend. And so you see that, and you see that relationship go on. You see the love that happens from that, and the complicated back and forth of young love and all of that in the first half of the book. And then the second half of the book actually flashes forward to many years later, kind of dealing with the aftermath of that and her reuniting with these boys. And that's all I really want to say. But it's just a book that is like, if you love a second chance romance, or if you love just like a tumultuous kind of story about two people that can't get the timing right, and just life, how it intervenes, and it's just, I don't know, it really makes you appreciate the people in your life and makes you realize like time is so precious, and I don't know, things just, you never know which way life is going to take you. And this was very much a story about that. And just the last like couple of chapters, I just kept reading over and over because I was just like, I didn't want it to end. It just like all of a sudden I was at the end and I was like, no, I'm not ready for it to be over. It was just so good. I need to get a physical copy of this one, but it is only available in hardback right now, and I hate hardbacks with a burning passion. So the second that paperback is available, it's gonna be living on my shelf. And the last book that I read in March was The Good Samaritan by John Mars. John Mars is very quickly becoming one of my favorite thriller authors. He just does it like no other. Oh my god, when you think that you have like discovered the plot twist in his story, no, he's gonna like double whammy, triple whammy you. Like you never know where it's gonna go in his stories, and I don't know how his brain works. He honestly scares me a little bit. This story, oh my gosh. So it follows this woman that she just seems like a very normal average woman. She's married, she has a family, and she volunteers at this helpline that's called End of the Line. That is basically a phone number that you can call whenever you are at the end of the line, whenever you're struggling with mental health, you're kind of ready to, you know, not be here anymore. And she isn't a very good volunteer at this helpline, because rather than helping people kind of dig themselves out of the hole that they're in, she actually encourages them to go ahead and end it all. And she gets like this weird sort of satisfaction out of this. There's a lot to the story that you kind of learn about her throughout. But that is kind of all I want to say about it, because a lot of things happen. And it is just like such a crazy concept, and just being inside of her head, very interesting experience, but definitely would recommend it if you want to feel like you're going a little bit crazy, and definitely going to be reading more by John Mars because he is just so good and so crazy. But yeah, guys, that is it. Those are all the books that I read in the month of March. My favorites were definitely Lucian and The Silent Patient, but overall, and Heart the Lover. I enjoyed so much of my reading this month. It was just such a good time. This next month, I have a crazy time at work. This is like my busiest season of the year, so I'm hoping to still get some good reads in. I'm definitely going to be rereading The Secret History. I've already started rereading it, and I'm definitely going to be making a video about it because I could talk about this book for 24 hours straight if you let me. I loved it so much the first time, and now rereading it a second time, I'm annotating it, tabbing it, highlighting it, all the things, and oh my god, I love it so much more. So that's what I'm like knee deep in right now, is rereading that. And I've reread several books this year, and I've been really enjoying it. And I think I'm just going to keep rereading like all my favorite books that I have on my shelf. I think I'm just going to reread them all this year and tab them and annotate them. Like, it's just such a special experience. So I'm definitely doing that, but for sure planning to get a few new reads in this month. Definitely still leaning into, I have so many books right now, like on my shelf, on my TBR, in my, wish list about kind of the dark academia, obsessive, friend group that gets a little out of control, just anything in the vein of The Secret History, Lucian, If We Were Villains, The Truants, just like any of those books that are like that. I have so many other similar recommendations right now that I am just like dying to read, so expect some of that to come. But yeah, guys, I would love to hear what y'all read in the month of March, what your favorite books were, if you have any recommendations for me. Always happy to hear those. But yeah, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.